In a special new issue, the New York Times Magazine is launching a series called the 1619 Project. It marks the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in the colony of Virginia. The series examines the ways the legacy of slavery continues to shape this country. The Times says the project aims to reframe American history and place the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of the story we tell ourselves about who we are. The journalist behind the project is New York Times Magazine domestic correspondent Nikole Hannah-Jones. Nikole, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Can you tell us about the genesis of this project? Where did you come up with the idea?
Sure. So I've been thinking about the year 1619 since I was in high school, and I came across that date in a book called Before the Mayflower. And I just was struck by how people of African descent had been here that long, and I never knew that date and never heard about it.
Right.
So as the anniversary was approaching the 400th year, I thought that this was a time to actually assess what has that legacy been, and to bring this year, 1619, to most American households where it was probably going to pass without them knowing about it.
You say 1619 is as important as 1776.
Yes. Our decision to buy that first group of 20 to 30 Africans would influence almost everything that would follow after. I think it is foundational. It is as foundational to who we became as a country as our decision in 1776 to break off from the British.
You say Black Americans are the most American of all and are true founding fathers. Can you walk us through from that first ship to today how we're still seeing the signs?
Yeah, so when you think about the fact that when Thomas Jefferson is writing the Declaration and laying out these words for liberation, that, all men are created equal and born with inalienable rights. And while he's writing that, he owns 130 human beings who are in absolute bondage. And in fact, his brother-in-law is sitting there with him enslaved to help keep him comfortable. What that means is those ideals were not true when they were written, but Black Americans took those ideas literally. And Black Americans have really fought. You can look at what happens after Reconstruction. You can look at the abolitionist movement. You can look at the civil rights movement. Black people have fought to make those ideals real.
Perfecting democracy.
Absolutely.
I can just say this. I was so embarrassed as a person of color that I had never heard of 1619 until I read your essay, page 16, when you first talk about it. And I just thought, how do we not know this? And I'm not the only one. There was only one person in the room, Betty over there, who went to Harvard. She knew about you, and she knew all about this project and knew all about this date. But you said it's time to stop hiding from our sins and confront the truth. What do you mean?
What I mean is...
And how do we not know about this, Nikole?
We don't know about 1619 the same way that we don't learn very much about slavery. It is shameful. No one wants to talk about their sins or the worst moments. And slavery gives contradiction to our entire creation story of the United States. And so we've tried to push it aside. We've tried to make it marginal. And in doing that, we've marginalized the 40 million descendants of the enslaved as well. So what we're trying to do with this project is force us to confront the truth. And then maybe we can actually start to move past slavery and become the country that was written in our ideals in the Constitution and the Declaration.
It's an effort to reframe American history, but some critics have said it's an effort to delegitimize American history. From the Cato Institute, Illa Shapiro tweeted, it's a project intended to delegitimize mankind's grandest experiment in human liberty. Is it divisive in that way?
I mean, what's amazing about that is people are not arguing the facts. So what they're basically arguing is that we should only talk about certain facts. We should talk about the good part of Thomas Jefferson, but not about the fact that he was an enslaver. I'm saying that history is history, and we have to tell the truth. No, it's not delegitimizing, because the whole point of the article is that Black Americans have used those founding words to actually bring us closer to the democracy that the founders envisioned. And that is the most patriotic of things.
You can take us, the thing that's so amazing about this, that makes me so proud, you can look at anything that's happening, just about anything that's happening in the world today and tie it to slavery. You look at the highways in Atlanta, you look at the naming of Wall Street, you look at sugar that we eat. But the thing that stuck out to me was healthcare, that you can tie healthcare to slavery. How?
Absolutely. So there's a piece in there about why we're the only Western industrialized country that doesn't have universal health care. And it starts with opposition to universal health care that occurs right after slavery, when the Freedmen's Bureau was trying to offer free health care to the formerly enslaved. And there was white opposition to that. And so even today, you see with polling that white Americans will reject social programs if they think large numbers of Black people will benefit from them. And so the harms of slavery have not been contained, because there are millions of white Americans Americans. There are millions of Latinos and Asian and Black Americans who don't have health care, who can't get insurance because of slavery.
You say don't look at Black people as a problem, look at Black people as a solution.
Yes, from the beginning, there have been thousands of pages dedicated to saying that Black people are, as Abraham Lincoln said, a troublesome presence in our democracy. But really, what we're arguing with this project is Black Americans have been the perfecters of this democracy, and that if we ever got to the point we would stop seeing us as a problem, we would actually be more of the America that we want to be.
Nicole, I stepped briefly on your line earlier. You see this as a patriotic act?
Yes, of course it is. This isn't saying that this is a country that needs to be destroyed. This is not saying that this is a country that's illegitimate. It's saying that this was a country founded on ideals that were not true at the time, but that Black Americans believed in those ideals and have worked to make those ideals true for all groups. I don't see what is more patriotic than that.
Well, you couldn't have expected this reaction, which is huge, by the way. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Congrats and bravo to you. Tomorrow on CBS This Morning, our national correspondent, Jerika Duncan, will take us to the site where the first enslaved Africans arrived in English North America. And she'll introduce us to a family with a very special connection to that historic period.